Weekender at 5. Today, we delve into an important issue, the issue that is affecting an entire industry, in the industry of hospitality sector. As we all know that we are in the middle of a massive Omicron wave, which is sweeping through across the country with more than 25,000 odd cases coming almost every day. So what is happening is that people in general, they are fearful and they are on a flight. I would say they are not turning up to our cafes, restaurants, and the hospitality venues. And that is affecting the livelihoods, that is affecting the businesses. We have already heard stories that around 250 to 300 restaurants, they were closed in the beginning of this year in the month of January. And many are predicting that there will be more carnage when we are looking at the entire hospitality industry. In the light of those news, recently, Minister of Finance Grant Robertson has announced a relief of around $4,000 per business, eligible business, plus $400 worth of per each employee for an eligible business which has experienced a fall in their revenue. And it is widely expected that this might be able to hold off those falling restaurant and cafe business for some more time, while there are contradicting views as well that this might not be enough. The help might have arrived a little bit too late as well. So to discuss more on this, today we have got a wonderful guest, a wonderful advocate of restaurant and cafe industry here in New Zealand, Marisa Bidois, who is the CEO of Restaurant Association of New Zealand. So welcome to our digital studio, Marisa. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you so much for having me, Sanjeev. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Right, okay. The first thing first, we want to hear from you what your stakeholders, what your members, they're saying. How is it fair to say that hospitality industry is beleaguered at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. Our industry are really facing some very tough times at the moment. Remembering that we've been managing the pandemic now for over 2 years, and this is the third year that businesses are coping with this sort of uncertain environment. So it really is. I didn't think it could get worse, and I don't like to be negative or to sort of raise too many kind of issues around this, but it really is within the industry. It's taken another step further, and we are seeing even more pain coming from our businesses, sadly.
Right, okay. Now, if we are wanting to talk about the disappointment, the recent level of disappointment, so which will it be fair to say that it all started from this last August Delta outbreak? Since then, probably the businesses have to be closed around for 3 to 4 months, or we're operating in a very reduced capabilities. So is it fair to say that businesses has not been able to recover from that August lockdown yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Many of our businesses, they're paying back accumulated debt over this time. So, many of our industry have taken out extra loans to basically keep their businesses afloat while we've struggled with reduced trading and reduced customers in many cases coming through to our businesses. So I think it's really fair to say that yes, businesses are still really hurting since August, really, when we started our second lot of lockdowns across New Zealand.
Okay, now talking about the support that you are getting from the government. So we have heard the government has from time to time come out and made some announcement. But last December, when we were moving out from the lockdowns and moving into new COVID-19 protection framework, under the traffic light system as it is known. At that time, Minister of Finance has said that probably there will not be any more resurgence support and any more wage subsidies. So how was it received within your industry? Like, were they confident that they will be able to sail through the coming more months without any external support from the government?
Absolutely not. There was some real concern actually right from the very beginning when we moved into the traffic light system that there wasn't any financial support associated with any of the levels. And at that time, we raised this because we knew that at a red level, that still does mean restricted trading in many cases for hospitality businesses and some of our other sectors as well, really where it's customer facing. And so this is something that we raised at that time. And we really saw that come to fruition as we saw Omicron come into the community. And that nervousness, even though, you know, it hasn't been declared that we're in a lockdown, many of the public are treating this time as a lockdown. You know, they're hunkering down, they're not going out. And we saw our industry affected by this as early as kind of late January, really. We were starting to notice some real changes to consumers' behavior based on some of the reports about Omicron coming out into the community, even then.
Right. Okay. So talking about the movement into the whole protection framework, so industry was never very confident that they will be able to sail through without sustained support from the government. So have your agency been able to talk to government, and do you think you were hurt by the
We
government?
definitely, well, look, we were right from the beginning of this year, we raised this issue straight away with the finance minister's office. And we also had an opportunity to present our case to the Treasury Department as well. So we were definitely heard, and we kept making noise about this because we could see the impact that it was having specifically on hospitality businesses. Originally, we did call for targeted support because we could see, sort of looking at our sector compared to some of the other sectors, that hospitality seemed to be sort of one of the most impacted. But as time sort of passed and we sort of went through a few more weeks, we were seeing other industries impacted as well. So we went out there with the idea that we would hopefully see a resurgence type payment be given to businesses, but we also wanted to see a wage subsidy in place as well, just because the impact and the losses that businesses were experiencing were just as equal, if not more, than say level 3 last year or level 4 when we were locked down in many cases. So the losses to businesses were very high when you look at the comparative periods.
Sure.
And
And
so I feel like we were heard. And I think that we would have liked to have seen this all come together much more quickly, but we know the wheels of government don't always turn as quickly as we'd like to see. But I do think we were heard initially, and that's some of the reason why we ended up seeing this further payment available to businesses.
right. Now, apart from COVID and the way government is managing the public health, which is definitely not worthy of that much of severe criticism, but it is the managing of the economy or managing the pain of the small businesses, to be more precise, where probably there are more pain stories coming out, especially from your sector. So is it fair to say that government has been persisting with many other policies that were not directly related to COVID? You know, suppose on the immigration front, on the supply of workforce, laborers, and also increasing the minimum wages, which were adding to the woes of small business operators. So do you think that has worsened their plight, these policies?
Look, I think that it hasn't made it easier for small businesses. And I think that, you know, our preference, and we've communicated this to government as well, is that, look, we think that some of these other policy settings should be left alone or to the side while we're managing, you know, the impacts of COVID within our businesses. I think it's a really big ask when, you know, we're seeing revenues decline in our business sector in many cases. And then we're sort of being asked to, you know, pay our workers more. And don't get me wrong, like I do think, you know, we're supportive of workers being paid a fair wage and that sort of thing. Like that is not what I'm saying, but it's a lot to deal with all at the same time. There's a lot of losses coming through for the businesses and then being asked to pay more. It's the timing's not right. It really isn't in many cases. And doing a policy reset around the immigration space, in hospitality, we have a skills shortage. So hearing that there will be some more changes to the policy settings is not really what a lot of our businesses want to hear when we're already struggling to fill many of our positions within the sector currently. So yeah, there's a few kind of disconnected conversations happening in that space.
All right. Okay. Now, coming back to the latest support that the government has announced. So what are you hearing from your stakeholders? Like, are they kind of happy or satisfied that this is enough and probably they will be able to see through probably the peak of Omicron wave for maybe remaining more 6 weeks, or they think that probably government need to do a little bit more to support them?
Well, I think with this question, it's probably worth stepping back to the beginning when we were originally told that there would be some more business support coming. And that was very well received. We were very excited about that. That's something that we had at the Restaurant Association really been campaigning for because these businesses so desperately needed assistance. But when it first came out, the comparison period in which businesses had to use to see whether they would qualify for the payment was looking at a period between January, beginning of January, essentially until the middle of February, and that was 2021. And in many cases, so many of our businesses are traditionally quiet during that time. During the summer period, our CBDs often clear out. And January 2022 in particular was especially busy for, quiet for our Auckland businesses, because as you may recall, we hadn't been able to travel regionally for a long time. So many people were just really gearing up to get out of Auckland and get to other regions. So it really created a space where a lot of our Auckland CBD was just completely quiet.
So probably Auckland CBD businesses were getting a double whammy.
Exactly.
Right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so when this came out, we were very happy to hear that there was more support coming. But as we dug down deeper and realized, well, actually, most of our businesses are not going to be able to qualify for this just because of the comparison period. So we did go back to the finance minister and say, well, look, we'd really appreciate it if you could relook at this comparative period, and it would be great if we could be comparing this to a normal trading period, and that would be August 2021 or even maybe December 2021. And so they did, luckily, which was nice, look back and adjust those dates. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite what we asked for, but it was still an extension to that comparative period. So now businesses can compare it to January 2021. And so that has made more of our businesses able to be eligible for that payment. And in our latest survey, where we had around 1,000 businesses respond, 54% said that they would be eligible. So that's still quite a big chunk of businesses that will not be able to access that help. But with this change, it has enabled more businesses to be able to access it.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, some news is good news. So maybe at least we can be happy about those who would be able to get support. But as you have rightly pointed out, that probably around 46% businesses would still be missing out. And for them to survive for another 4 or to 8 weeks, when we hope this surge in Omicron wave will subside eventually, it's going to be very tough, very tough.
It is, yeah.
And so, yeah, are you planning to go back to government with any other pending demand, or
Yes, we are continuing to work on it. We'd really like to see, we would like to see some committed support over the next 3 months, because we see Omicron kind of moving into our communities. There's been some reports that we might be reaching our peak next week, or it could be the week after. So, for these businesses to be able to plan, it's really important for them to know that they will have support, over the coming weeks. And not just the next month, but we'd like to see sort of a 3-month period drawn out to say, well, look, if businesses are meeting this criteria, that they still would be able to access some assistance. Because we know that things will eventually one day, hopefully, get back to normal soon. And we just need to see these businesses get over the next hurdle. A lot of these businesses have already survived 2 years, and it would just be horrible to see more of them, not make what I see as the final hurdle, and be able to kind of get their businesses back up and running. So we are asking for more financial support in terms of the length of time, but we'd also like to see some wage subsidy support for businesses as well. That was really helpful last year, and it really made a difference to these businesses being able to continue to operate.
Well, yeah, it seems to be pretty reasonable demand, I would say. And I think given that the government has been quite generous previously in extending the wage subsidy, and they had considered to relook in providing this targeted support to hospitality sector. So probably government can do a little bit more and be more kind and considerate to this sector, which has been receiving the flack and receiving, I think, the maximum brunt of this ongoing pandemic. So I think that's an optimistic note to finish this conversation. I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for your advocacy that you are doing for our small businesses and in the hospitality sector. So before I let you go, any final message, Marisa?
I just wanted to say a big thank you to you and your team for covering the really important issues like this. It's so important that the small businesses do have a voice. And I just want to extend my thanks to you as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Marisa.
Thank you.
This is Sandeep, along with our production team, bringing you